what's going on? I'm Brandon Bain.
And I'm Dan Foulds, and this is Rubbin' and Grubbin'. Hey, we're back here with you for another week. We're so glad that you're here with us. Let's get into good racing and good food. We're coming to you live right now from Coach's Corner, the center of the universe in Thunderbolt, Georgia. Savannah is that way, about 80 feet. We are, as you can see, practicing social distancing. Coronavirus is still putting a pause on NASCAR, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. NASCAR is talking about maybe coming back for Darlington mid-May, maybe Charlotte, May 24th. The governor in the state of Charlotte, or in the state of North Carolina, still got the state shut down. Homestead is talked about for a race location, and Atlanta. Teams have got their cars prepped for those races, but North Carolina-based teams still can't work on their shops, at their shops. Brandon, how can they prep those cars?
Can't. 9 times out of 10, those were, Atlanta, Miami were a couple races that were already ahead on the schedule coming up. Atlanta is when they pretty much shut it down.
Yep.
So I would say that those cars were already built. Maybe not the fine finished fixes on it, but they already had those cars pretty much ready to go to that race, I would think. Either one of those would be great. Me, I would prefer Atlanta, because I, am Atlanta man. That's my track, man. So
you are Atlanta.
Love to see that one. It's one of my favorite races of the year. Very different track than a lot of places they run. Very abrasive, tire wear, car management, fuel mileage. I mean, there's no telling what comes into play there. But glad to hear at least they got something coming up in the works. I was thinking mid-May myself. If they run from here on out mid-May on, you're looking at a 32 race schedule without making any races up, which doesn't hurt my feelings at all. We can go back and run 32, and at 22 call it, and then it's the chase, and get the full season in. The making up the races, I don't know how that's going to all play out. I've heard different scenarios on shorter race lengths. I've heard, midweek races. I've heard, no pit stops during races, just this, stopping, restarting on the grid.
Right.
I've heard all kinds of different things, man. I'm just ready to get back to racing, period. I'm ready to see the cars on the track, turning left, man, going fast, and making us fans happy, man. That's what I'm ready for.
Spectacular. Awesome. So it takes about 2,000 to 2,500 people to run a race. That's crew, track officials. They're going to test everybody at the track. The Pro Invitational Series race at Richmond. So if you've been following us, you know that we've been talking about sim racing here for the last period of time, because there hasn't been any real racing. So what we've been looking at is guys sitting in their living room or their garage or their media room, and they're sitting in a console, and they are driving a setup, and they are linked to NASCAR iRacing setup, and they're doing races. As a matter of fact, there was a race last Sunday. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So this was the Pro Invitational Series at Richmond, and by the way, you can bet on these races. I don't know if anybody watching this show is interested in making a little small wager. This is Coach's Corner, and occasionally at Coach's Corner, people like to bet on something. So I was asked who did I pick, and I picked William Byron, who I had never heard of in my life until this young man right here told me his story. Willie B came up on the simulation system, and as they have now, the only show in town for NASCAR is on simulators. As it turns out, guess what? Mr. Byron is doing really, really well.
Yeah.
By the way, he is the ripe old age of 22. So I've got several items of clothing that are older than William Byron, but have neither here nor there. The kid is very, very good on a simulator, and he won. Yeah. So I think you guys owe me money, by the way. We'll just get to that.
Yeah, we do.
So Denny Hamlin was in it, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, and even Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, all had good runs, man. All top 10 finishes, I'm pretty sure. I took Hamlin. I thought one being one of his best racetracks in real life. Simulation, he's been doing it for a while. I figured it was going to show out a little bit there. Track position on those are everything, man. It's very similar in that aspect. He had a couple good runs there coming up through the field a couple times and got himself right, and then he got hung on the outside on some restarts, and definitely wasn't the place to be. So Cost me a little bit of change, but it was good, man. I loved it. I thought Richmond was one of the better iRaces they've had. We went 32 laps, I think, green flag without a caution before the first caution. No reset, so these guys were treating it like a baby, you know, a lot more. You're one and done. So.
I'm glad so he just said no reset. So in a computer, you know, you can do anything you want. So the reset was where you could mash a button if you crash your car and get a brand new car. So obviously, NASCAR and iRacing are trying to make this more and more every week. They're learning as they're going. They're trying to make this more and more like real racing. In the real world, there's no pause button and there's no reset button.
No, it's a one and done, man. That's it.
So they if you watch the race, and if you didn't, you can obviously see that on YouTube. And if you don't know who won, we're not going to tell you, because it is as good on YouTube if you don't know who won as if you saw it that day. When you tear up your car, you have to sit in your pit box, and those guys at iRacing have figured out how long does it take to repair a fender, how long does it take to pull the metal away from the tire, how long does it take to do this or that,
right.
And they make those guys sit there. So then what you have is you have a driver sitting in his rig in his living room, and then he could be talking to the two guys who did a spectacular job calling that race, which was Jeff Gordon and Mike Joy.
Yeah.
I mean, to tell you, these two dudes have brought their game to NASCAR and iRacing.
Yeah, it's pretty neat deal, man. I like how Fox has it rigged up. Kind of gives the feel of an actual NASCAR Sunday or Saturday.
No kidding. It's not like being there.
No, it's not like being there.
If you've been to a race, it ain't like being there. But if you're in your living room and you got it on a big screen and you crank up that volume and you got a cold beer, you know, it's not that far off.
No. Pretty good, man. Give you something to watch. You know, like I said before, I'm just a fan of racing. It doesn't matter if it's turtles, crabs, tricycles, bicycles. If we're racing, if there's 5 or 6 people ready to race, man, I'll bet on it.
And we can bet on it.
So I like that. So.
All right. So this company called Leaf Filter, these people that make leaf filters for gutters, they signed on as a sponsor for this racing series that took place last night. So last Sunday was basically NASCAR drivers and Xfinity drivers. Last night there was the race. Let me back up just a little bit. Before NASCAR was shut down, and before the actual drivers started racing sims, there was an entire series that's been going on for 10 years or so. Dale Jr. was one of the original sponsors, and they have their races on Tuesday night. So they have a sponsor that has just come on board because, as you can imagine, there's a tremendous amount of interest in all things simulation now for racing. So it was the leaf filter replacements that was on last night. It's on YouTube if you want to see it. I'm not going to tell you who won because it's a spectacular race. I was watching some of it. Harvick was racing last night, and you can see that video right now on YouTube. Harvick was racing, and you know Harvick is he's a force.
He's the closer, man.
He's a force.
That's the name, the closer, and in the real deal, he is
he's
one
the
of the contenders every week, man.
And when we do our Wednesday night NASCAR friendly game of skill here, if you can always do well by betting on Harvick,
yeah,
right?
You can. You got a shot. You know,
Harvick or Busch. You know, you're always
mine. You know, mine's always if you get to pick first. You know, I'm not a fan, but I'm always taking Kyle Busch, man. It gives me a shot at the money. So.
One thing I'm noticing, and maybe you're seeing this too. I know Lawrence Bennett, who's a producer of the show, is seeing it. The distance between guys who have been sitting in a car their whole life and guys who have sitting in a simulator for the last 10 years, that gap is narrowing very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry? And as you can imagine, you know, a guy that can actually get in a car and go 198 miles an hour, it's not going to take him too long to figure out how to operate a simulator.
Yeah.
And Harvick was doing that last night, and you can watch that race. Like I said, I'm not going to tell you who won it. Grab yourself a cold beer, sit down, you got something to look at. The announcers for these strictly iRacing, there's 2 kids. They're doing this from their living room, and I just want to say that those iRacing NASCAR kids are spectacular. Like I said, these guys are in their living room, and when you hear these guys calling these races, They do a spectacular job, and it is entertaining. So if by some chance this video ever gets to one of them, kudos to you. You're doing a great job. The modeling. I want to talk just a little bit about the modeling. Have you seen the exhaust plume coming out of a car?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Does that shit look real or what?
It does. It does.
What these guys, these computer engineers, have done everything they can do to make this simulation racing absolutely as authentic as they can.
Yeah.
When they hit a bump on the track, there's sparks coming from a bar that's up underneath the car.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I know last week you hear it a lot in Richmond when they put the load in the car, braking or it hit and you could hear the metal scrape.
And you can see the sparks.
Yeah, I thought it was really neat. Whenever they were talking to Kevin Harvick about, running or whatever, and Keselowski and a couple of these guys that are newer to it, and trying to catch on and practice. Obviously Denny Hamlin's been one of the guys that's been doing this for a while. And he said, you don't get the aspect of the speed. You don't feel, the speed, you don't feel the compression, you don't feel the G-force. He said, but you get more audio. So what he was telling them is listen to the tires, because it screeches on the turn when you're turning, the front too hard, your left front or right front or whatever, you're turning it too hard.
Right.
He's like, that's what you pay attention to. That's how you know how much of your tire you still have. So it becomes more of a visual, physical feel to an audio feel. You're not, the sensation of how fast you're going, you're looking at a screen. It's not there. The feel of how fast you're going on the screen, it's not there. So the only thing you have left is your audio. So
you've got a different set of cues.
Right.
And
how that relates into a real race car. I think it's going to help some of these guys, these professionals later in their careers. The older guys, Harvick and Kyle Busch, some of these guys who weren't big simulation racers. This is the first generation of these guys that you really see that have been on the simulator since either before they started racing or while they were racing. And now they're in the big series. So you're seeing it roll over and the advantages of the skill that it has. So now these older guys are able to go out and do the same thing these young kids have been doing for, like you said, 10 years, 7 years, 8 years. They're the top, they're the best in their sport for a reason. It's not going to take long before they start figuring out. And how that bleeds back over when we restart of, hey, this works on this, let me try it here. Or, here's another visual cue for me. I've learned this.
I learned about this from that.
Right.
Yes.
So how it portrays over for these older guys that don't have much experience is going to be interesting when we finally get back to the real deal, man. I'm ready to see it. I'm kind of excited about it.
So I actually am very familiar with this changing cues. Before William Byron was born, I was a helicopter pilot. I flew Chinooks in the Army, and I started out, I was flying during the day. And I could look around me, and as I was making an approach to land, I had peripheral vision, and I could see what was going on, and I could feel the helicopter. And then I started flying with these gadgets called night vision goggles. And when you look through night vision goggles, you're looking through two tubes, they're about the size of toilet paper tubes, and your field of view is restricted to 40 degrees. And I remember when my instructor, Howard Swain, was trying to teach me to make approaches at Fort Bragg, North Carolina to the St. Mary Glease drop zone. And I kept going in there, and he would say, roll out at 300 feet, set your initial speed at 50 knots, and make an approach and land on that ground there. And I kept coming in, and because I didn't have the normal cues that I'm used to, I kept coming in smoking fast. I'd be going really hot, and he would say, hey, you need to do a go around. And we did this like 20 times, and Howard finally said, you don't have the cues you're used to. And these drivers are complaining that they don't have the seat of the pants cues, which the word for that is proprioceptive. When you go from one realm to another, there's things you have and there's things you don't have. And it took me the longest time to figure out how to slow that freaking Chinook helicopter down so that I didn't crash into the freaking ground because I was looking through these toilet paper tubes. This is the same thing that Harvick is going through right now. Harvick, they were talking to Harvick at the race last Sunday, and he said, one thing he said that was kind of funny is he was doing pretty good, and then somebody Skype called him.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
And they called him, because they want to interview him, and they call on Skype because he's in his freaking garage, and he ran off the road and crashed and lost a bunch of track position because it's new and different, right?
Yeah, man.
But he will absolutely get this figured out, and as where this story started was these Cup drivers doing this iRacing, this simulation racing, they will get better and they will do real well.
Definitely will.
the seat of the pants feel, it comes to me that an enterprising person who makes stuff could make a seat of the pants device for even like little Timmy Hill he's got like a $300 setup. I drive John Henderson, who owns Coach's Corner. He's got a beautiful new pickup truck, and sometimes I'll drive his truck to go pick up stuff for him. In this new modern pickup truck, there is something that's in my seat, under my left butt cheek and my right butt cheek, and if I get too close to an obstacle, that truck has a sensor that starts to rumble this thing under my butt cheek. If you've got a new Ford pickup, you're probably familiar with this. It's new to me because I'm old. If you can make that in a Ford pickup truck, if you can make something that'll rumble under your butt and give you a proprioceptive cue or a seat of the pants feel, dude, if you make stuff, you need to be the first guy that makes a cushion that you can put in a seat that will be tied into the simulator, and it will shake or shimmy or shiver. And as Lawrence said, if you crash, it needs to shock the shit out of you. So there's a little bit of freaking pain associated with crashing.
It's $1.
That's $1. Here's for this one and the next 4. So yes, it would be very, very easy for somebody to create a very small device that will add a physical sensing cue to what they're looking at, because right now it's just visual and audio, right? They've got sound.
Yeah.
You said they can hear the
sound.
sound.
And, I mean, the visual aspect, it's a definitely different visual aspect than what you have in the car. Obviously, when you're physically pressing an accelerator and you feel physically and visually see and feel the speed start building.
Yes.
When you do this for a career, and they've done it as long as they have, obviously, that's how they know what kind of lap, that's how they know kind of what they're doing in a way. You know, they know, you know, not only from the RPM you run and the audio from the engine, you're not going to hear the tires like you do in sim racing, but you're going to feel the speed. That sensation of speed, you're going to feel
the world going by.
Yeah, I don't think we can ever get that in sim. I think we can get, like you said, Denny Hamlin's got a really nice rig. He's got hydraulics. You could obviously have something that has, you know, some compression in it where maybe it puts pressure on your body like a G-force, but to reenact that, I don't think we're not going to get there anytime soon. But
probably not.
Be neat to see. But I think they're doing a good job so far, man. Pretty cool.
Spectacular. So if you're looking for something to look at, there is truck racing coming up. I think the truck racing is tomorrow night. It's either going to be on all these events that I'm going to mention are either going to be on Fox or Twitch, which I just learned what Twitch was the other day. Fox or Twitch or YouTube, but they are going to have truck racing. Friday night 6 p.m. there's racing. Saturday night they have the Thunder, and that is the guys that race in ARCA. These are actual car drivers. They're doing this several events on Saturday night, and then Sunday on Fox, it's the race that would be at Talladega.
Yeah, Pro Invitational at Dega, man, which I'm excited about this. This one's going to be interesting. Really hoping they do no resets just like in real life, like they did last week, to where if you wreck, you're going to be out, you're going to be done, like you would 9 times out of 10 in the real race.
Make it suck just like real life, right?
It's going to be interesting, man. I think you're going to see a couple of those guys, as we mentioned earlier, these cut veterans that are just now getting into it. I think you're going to see a couple of them do pretty good, man. So
let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Richmond edition. The good.
I mean, obviously the good's got to be just the racing in general, man. I mean, that's something to me, like I said, that I was extremely impressed by. It was one of those things that you saw. Bristol was decent. Texas was another one that was really good, had a good finish. Timmy Hill knocked Byron out of the way to win that one in Texas.
Yeah.
Very good. This was probably the closest race I've seen to actually being like at an actual race.
Like a real race.
Yeah, I mean, the tire wear wasn't, quite what it would be, or cars didn't come back through the field. Track position means a whole hell of a lot on iRacing. Clean air, the restart.
Yes.
But just as far as the way that they raced and how it all fell out, it had a real feel of an actual NASCAR Richmond race. So I really liked that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
off.
Oh,
you're good.
I sense that a lot of the drivers were taking this a lot more seriously, because, oh, by the way, those drivers all have sponsors, and those sponsors are all writing big checks every month to be the sponsor, and there's no real racing going on. So what they're doing now is an opportunity to put that sponsor's name on the hood of that car on national TV.
Yep.
And I think a lot of those drivers are taking it a lot more seriously. There was one guy, however, who is obviously not taking this seriously. And this is evidenced to me by the fact that he wore a giraffe onesie pajama suit in the race. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Benedetto, man. I don't know what the deal
What's up
was.
with him?
I have no idea, man. I don't know if he lost a bet or just got out of bed or was chilling. I don't know, man. But yeah, it was pretty interesting.
So I've got him being parked twice.
Yeah, that was kind of the bad or the ugly, either way you want to take it. He got into a little scuffle there with Ryan Priest, who also did really well in that Richmond race. I think he led the first 30-something laps.
Yep.
Battled Byron there for a while. That was pretty cool, and then kind of fell back. But whenever he got back, Benedetto, I guess, had a couple different
they've apparently got a little bad blood between them.
Yeah, they got a little real estate issue going there, and then it went from that to just taking each other out. So, it happens, man. Obviously, frustrations in video games and having the ability to drive into a corner and just take somebody out, that's nice compared to real life. You do that and you ruin both your days. So
whether it's live or whether it's Memorex, and you got to be old to know what I'm referring to there, whether it's live or it's Memorex, you cannot put two cars in the same piece of track.
That you can, man. That you can.
You can only have one car in one place at one time.
Yeah, they try. I mean, that's the name of the game, man. They try.
So Di Benedetto got parked again, and LB, Lawrence Bennett, who's our producer, mentioned to me that iRacing takes a very dim view of anybody acting like this is a game.
Yeah, they do. They
no screwing around.
Yeah,
don't be crashing cars.
No, they frown upon that, and they established that from day one, which I really like. I mean, if you go in there and you intentionally, you're going to get a warning on the first whatever they consider rough driving or doing whatever.
Yep.
And then after that, that's it, man. You're done.
You're out.
So
here's our come on, dude. Come on, dude. Kevin Harvick had a rough day in his virtual race car. At one time, he had over 20 minutes of virtual repairs.
Yeah.
And then Boyer told him, hey, man, wake up. They're not all mandatory. You can leave the pits and start racing. So a non-mandatory repair might be like putting a front fender back on, right?
Optional, yeah. Taping
you don't
something,
have to do that.
Right. They give you that optional, they give you a time that says, hey, your car is going to be ready in 18 minutes, 20 minutes, 8 minutes. And then some repairs are optional, which will either knock that time down or just let you go. But not only that, they also caught him while he was eating lunch, sitting in his sim rig, which is pretty funny, you can eat lunch. You can go. You can get up and go pee. Yeah,
right?
man.
One guy, the kid that announces on Fox, he went to go pee.
Yeah.
And he missed the qualification. He was at the back of the track.
Yeah.
That poor guy. He's trying to think of who this is. LB, help me out. Who is it that had to go pee and he got bubbed? Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer has been bubbed 2 times in a row, where he's like driving along, minding his own business, fat, dumb, and happy, and then boom, and then all of a sudden he's crashed.
That's how it happens in sim racing, man. But yeah, Harvick had a rough day on his rig, man. That was, I think, only the first or second one he'd been in. Probably going to see him quite a bit more. I wouldn't say how much more. But it's going to be interesting. There again to see what these older veterans come into sim racing and what they learn from it. So,
did you like the national anthem?
Oh, I love the national anthem, man. I think Rascal Flatts absolutely killed it.
They smoked it.
Yeah, dude, that was
3
awesome.
Different living rooms. Their harmony was perfect.
Yep.
LB, were you crying?
Yeah.
Did you have a tear in your eye? Because I was standing there. Did you have your hand over your chest?
I did.
Yeah,
yes,
so that's
absolutely
this week's cheers, man. Cheers to Rascal Flats for the
cheers to
beautiful
Rascal
national
Flats.
anthem, man.
Spectacular job. How about aviation and simulation been going together forever? How about the flyover of the jets?
Yeah, dude, that was awesome. I don't know if they had done that. Had they done that every week, or was this the first week they showed it?
That's the first time they did it.
I thought it was the first week they showed it.
Those guys were in full motion simulators.
Right, dude. It was absolutely awesome. I think I text you or text Lawrence or both y'all about it, and I said, man, the flyover was cool as hell, man. That was really neat. Really, really neat.
So those
stuff.
guys came out of an Air Force base in North Carolina. It's where I got my private airplane pilot's license. That Air Force base is called Seymour Johnson. And that name right there tells you that boy's mama had a sense of humor. Anyway, so that virtual flyover was fantastic. 2 worlds collided. Air Force flew in formation in their simulators, and they flew over the real track.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
Okay, it's time for the checkered flag for charity. William Byron drives the number 24 car.
Yep.
And we happen to have $24 here. And this is for the
It's for the Ronald McDonald House of the Coastal Empire, man. Like we say all the time, we're going to keep doing this every week. Whatever guy wins this race, we're going to donate. I think we've raised $363 so far. We're still on target to raise over $1,500. Like I said, I know we're all in a time of need, hard time right now, sheltering in, doing this, COVID-19. But let's remember these people that are way less fortunate than what we have, or you know, what me and you have,
right.
What a lot of people have.
Right.
Dimes, nickels, pennies, dollars, 50s, 20s, 5s, 10s, 100s. Anything you got, you know, come by either here, come by a local donation spot, drop some change, do whatever you can to help these unfortunate, you know, unwilling, unable people.
There's a lot of people in the hospital right now.
Yeah,
Some of them are kids, and when a kid's in the hospital, mama and daddy got to be there.
Yep.
And mom and daddy need a place to sleep. And that's what the Ronald McDonald House comes in. They do the right thing. My good friend Danny Merritt, who by the way is running for Congress for Georgia's 1st District, Danny Merritt, about 2 months ago, he did a thing on Facebook. He said, hey, let's go help the Ronald McDonald House. So I went over there and I gave him $100, which I thought was spectacular.
Yeah,
and of course, he did that as well. And I'm proud that we're doing that. Ronald McDonald House recently called out or gave a shout out to John Henderson at Coach's Corner, because John is taking food over there and he's feeding them. He's doing the right thing in all regards all the time. And if you're supporting Coach's Corner, I want you to know that you are indeed supporting a fantastic establishment. Your money is taking care of the employees who are working there. You're keeping them in their homes. You are also taking care of people who don't have food to eat, because John is taking food out to people that don't have anything to eat. He's delivering it. They're picking it up. This store is absolutely
the center of the universe.
The center of the universe through this crisis. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
man.
if you're helping coaches, you're doing good stuff for your community.
Yeah.
Hey, we would invite you to like this wordy cast that we're doing here, and like the coaches page, and share it. You're helping out John, and if you're helping out John and Adele Henderson and the 4 girls, you're helping out the community.
Good. You're all right with us, man. Also, check us out on YouTube. Just look up Rubbin' and Grubbin'. We're there. Check it out. You know, subscribe, follow us, man. If you guys enjoy, if you got any comments or questions or anything, feel free to write in, comment on this. You know, maybe we'll get to it next week, man. We'd love that. So.
And as soon as we get to where we can have people come back into the store, because we can't right now. We'd love to have anybody who's watching this who wants to come down and be part of this. You know, we normally have a segment we call 3 Wide. We put a chair right there. And if you know about NASCAR, you know about racing, you've got some history with it, gosh, we would love to hear your story.
Man.
You know, I mean, that would just be spectacular. Hey, we're up to our mailbag. So some questions. We got one question was a fellow said, why watch NASCAR? NASCAR, that's an acronym. It stands for Non-Athletic Sports Centered Around Rednecks. Why does anybody watch NASCAR? And I actually scratched my head, and I've got a lot of head to scratch these days. I scratched my head and I thought, well, why watch golf? Because what is golf? Golf is you're walking around on a big green yard and you're hitting this little tiny white ball, and you spend a shit ton of money. I've got that covered. You spend all this money and you hit this little ball into this little tiny hole, and then after all that work, what do? You go over and you pick the freaking ball back up out of the hole. What's the point of that?
All right.
Well, you know, so
Right.
I'm not a golfer, and golfers know. I'm going to tell you, NASCAR is rich and thick with strategy and history and teamwork. People, you know, fuel stops, tires. What kind of car are we going to put together? How are we going to rig the car? It's not just the driver in the car. The driver in the car is the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
But there is an iceberg of effort underneath that, right?
I mean, when you look at it, obviously you got to have somebody that knows what they're doing behind the wheel. Otherwise, all the efforts you put into it are for none.
Right.
You know, you got to have a pilot. You got to have the guy that's got the skills to drive it and drive it fast.
Right.
But beyond that, dude, it's the technological aspect. Me and you have had that conversation I don't know how many times. I'm a race fan. I love racing, not just NASCAR, like I said earlier. Turtles, crabs. I love racing, man. I think it's horses, whatever. I think it's cool, you know, cool as hell. It's a cool sport, man.
Yes.
It's awesome, right?
It's a contest.
But people also fail to realize the physicality of what the wear and tear this does to these people, you know, the driver's body also. Okay, yeah, it's not physical as contact like you are in football, and you're not getting, you know, broken legs and broken this and broken that all the time, right? You're not getting hit every play. You're not sliding into second base or getting hit by a 98-mile-an-hour pitch, but you're in a 155-degree car with a fire suit on for 3 hours.
Yes.
Driving a car, mentally challenging, making pin here moves, cutting, this much space between you and a guy in front of you.
Look at
190 something miles an hour.
Look at their faces when you see them running those sims.
So they're
Go
not
ahead.
non-athletic, right? Okay,
Right.
so whatever you want to say, right? But then you have the technological aspect, the engineering, the millions and millions of dollars that's spent on the engineering that goes into this car to make it perform
I
for
love
the
it.
guy driving it. Right. I mean, it's like a mini space program, man. You have these guys working around the clock to get a 1/1000th, 1/100th, 1/10th. You get a tenth of a second on everybody else, you're killing it.
Right.
You get that, just this with inside the rule book. Just this is what they look for week in and week out. And
Yep.
you've got to pay top engineers to
Yep.
do that. So you're right. It's not
There's
the
a lot-
most physicality sport as far as contact. But I can
Oh.
guarantee you, when they tell you when you wreck a car,
Till they
going,
crash.
Yeah, when they wreck a car going 200 miles an hour, I bet they walk probably the next 4 or 5 days, and they feel that.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
anybody that
gosh.
has that, I just say, hey, look at it again from a different point of view, not
Yeah.
from, hey, it's baseball or football or this or that. Look at it from the point of view of everything it takes to get there, and then what these guys are capable of doing in a car going 200 miles an hour, on top of a guy giving you fuel and 4 tires in 12 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, dude. I mean, it's
That's-
there's a lot
Come
of
on,
aspects.
dude.
Right.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a lot of
spectacular.
aspects here, man. That's why I've always told you it's a team sport. People
I
think
love
it's
it.
just people think it's just you put this driver in and he drives around going left for 3 hours and hey, you win. But it's a team sport because he can only do so much. If the car's not right,
Right.
you can't compete to win.
There's
If the
and
pit
it takes
crew
time
messes
to
up,
learn
you're
about
done,
all
right.
those different layers
Right.
of all
It's
those
not
people
just,
doing
hey,
those
turn
things.
it on and I mean, I make jokes with my wife all the time. I call it NASCAR because I'm good for, we get somewhere like Atlanta, do 325 lap race, right? You run the first 15 laps and it's single file and it's going like this. But I can guarantee you the last 15 to 20 is going to be interesting because this guy, and this guy are all on different fuel strategy, different tire strategy, and this guy's leading the race. But these 3 guys that are 5 seconds back are catching them by 4/10 a lap.
And they've got a plan
Right. So
how
it's
they're
like,
gonna
yeah,
run his
you
butt
know,
down.
It'll run you. I mean, it'll lull you to sleep there. But
Yeah.
but that's just part of the sport. Same thing with golf. I love golf. I love playing golf. I love watching golf. I think it's amazing what they can do.
We do that here too, by the way. I'm not a golfer, but I do enjoy golf. We watch golf right here on the Monster
all the
Jumbotron.
time, man.
We're looking forward to the Masters being on here probably in the fall. So
which would be interesting.
maybe golf was the wrong.
No, it's a perfect one, man. It really is. I mean, you're hitting a white ball to chase it down, to hit it again, and then to pick it up and hit it all over. That's all you're doing. But it's when from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But when you look at green speed and elevations and wind and
There's a lot to learn.
right, there's a lot to learn. Same thing as NASCAR.
Certainly,
You
yeah.
just gotta. But golf puts me to sleep. If I will turn on golf before I turn on NASCAR to take a nap on Sunday afternoon. That's just me.
There you go. There you
It's
go.
something about Jim Nance, man. He just lulls me.
So we got a question from Brian M. Are they using spotters?
Yeah.
So I can answer half of this. Their iRacing has computer-generated spotter that you can use, and Jimmy Johnson actually got angry about it.
Yeah.
Pardon me. At a race, the spotter told him he was clear, and he
he
crashed
wasn't,
into
right.
somebody 2 times, and he actually uttered on the microphone on the camera, "That's the second time my spotter has told me I was clear and I wasn't."
Yeah.
So he turned off the computer-generated spotter.
Yeah.
But in addition to computer-generated spotters,
There's also real live spotters. Some of these teams, some of these guys still keep in contact with their actual spotter that they race within the Cup Series.
yes,
So these guys are at home or wherever watching, the screen, watching the iRace going down. They obviously have access
And they're
to
spotting.
different, right? They have access to different camera views than we do, but they're spotting for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's great because there again, I said it's a team sport. This guy is your eyes that you can't see. You can't
Right.
turn around and look backwards. You can peek in the mirror, you can peek in your little mirrors you got, but you can't see what's going on.
You don't
5
have
rows-
situational
5 rows
awareness.
back. Right.
Yeah.
So this guy's over here, he's your eyes. He's telling you, hey, you're clear by 1. Hey, he's 2 back. Hey, he's coming on you, gaining a 10th. He's telling you all kinds of information. You're relaying information to them. They're relaying information to the crew chief. You're relaying information. It's just a huge network of people that all have to come together as a team for one objective, and it's to win. So
And
I
at
think
a
I
track,
think spotting's awesome, man. I
at a
think it's
track,
awesome.
that's happening via small radios,
and
and
this,
now it's happening via the internet.
yeah, and this week coming up, obviously at
Talladega.
this is
Woo!
one of 2 most important.
That's one of your
tracks for the
favorite
spotters.
tracks, right?
I love watching Dega race.
'Cause it's-
I love restrictor plate racing. I think it's really cool. The
Yep.
finishes are always great. Obviously, we saw in the 500 minus the Ryan Newman thing. Nobody liked that.
Yep.
But the finishes are great, man. It builds the intensity of watching these guys that are bumper to bumper, 40 deep, 20 rows deep, going 212, 210, 208 miles an hour, be this close and not mess up for a long time. And then when they do, it's carnage, and everybody likes carnage. But
So I said this once, I'm going to say it one more time. They had that race at Virtual Talladega last night. You can find that NASCAR iRacing event. It's on YouTube, and everything he just said happened last night.
Yeah,
it was everything he just said, and the race was spectacular. You never would have expected it, and I'm not going to tell you who won. Wow, what fun we're having. So, one of the things that they mentioned is that as at Talladega, the draft is important, right?
Oh, correct.
You've got to find somebody to work with.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't find somebody to work with, there again, one of the best people I said that this week somebody you're going to have to watch out for in this iRace is going to be Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin knows how to manage track position and make moves at restrictor plates like no other. So if half of what it is in real life carries over to iRacing, he's going to be somebody to extremely deal with. Yeah, you got to find somebody obviously to pull or push you through.
If you're out there on your own,
you're done. Yeah,
if you're at Talladega, you're on your own.
If at Talladega or Daytona, real life or sim, if you lose the draft, if you're not able to draft that car in front of you, you're done. That's it. You're getting lapped. You're going laps down. That's it. You're done. That's why it's so important not to lose the draft, because it is drafting.
Somebody else is doing the work for you.
5, 7, 8, 10
They're
cars.
helping you, and you're helping them.
10 cars are faster than 4, man. It's momentum. This guy hits this guy, that hits that guy, that hits that guy, and next thing you know, it's into the front. And that's momentum. So it's something that this week, like I said, is going to be very interesting. I'm really ready to see how this simulation racing is going to compare to real life Talladega. If it's half as good as it is in real life on sim, it's going to be an awesome race.
Who's your favorite 5 for Talladega?
My favorite 5 for this week at Talladega, obviously, you got to go William Byron. I mean, you can't take nothing away from that.
That's my pick.
That kid's, 2 out of the 5 they run or 4 they run. The kid's killing it.
He's the Harvick of simulation.
Right, he's been doing it for a while.
Yep.
Kid's awesome. I'm going to say Timmy Hill. Timmy Hill, I think, has the best average finish through every Pro Invitational that they won. One win at Texas, moved Byron out of the way. I'm going to say you can look at probably a guy like John Hunter Nemechek, Landon Castle somewhere in 3rd. And then 4th and 5th, I'm going to say Denny Hamlin, Dale Jr. If there's going to be one track that Dale Jr. is going to run extremely, extremely well ahead out of this, I would figure it's going to be Talladega. Denny Hamlin, like I mentioned to you earlier, great talent at restrictor plate racing. I'll put him in there. And then, like I said, rounding out the top 5 would have to be Dale Jr., man.
Gotcha. Is John Hunter a son of Joe Nemechek?
Yep, that's his son. So
that's funny how in NASCAR there's so much of that.
Oh, dude, generational.
Families come
man, it's one of the. I mean, that football, baseball. I think all sports are kind of generational like that, family-wise. They all have somewhere down there, but NASCAR is one of the bigger ones, man. There's a lot of sons or grandsons or nephews or oh man, it's deep in family. So.
What was it? Lawrence calls him Awesome Bill from Dawsonville.
Awesome
right?
Bill from Dawsonville, man. Bill Elliott, man.
Yeah, and he's got his kid, right? Is
Chase,
his kid?
Chase, man,
awesome
the man.
There you go. Awesome Bill from Dawsonville. Hey, fans, listen, if you're still here, hot shit, there's another $1 in there. You've got some stimulus, some stamina, and we really appreciate you being with us here. We've got one more thing to talk about before we go. And we have a lovely lady who's going to bring that up here. We're going to talk tonight about one of my favorite foods from Coach's Corner. It is our nachos. So we have chicken nut. Thank you.
Move in the picture. Move in.
Turn around, look at that, give a big old smile. The nachos here are comfortable. They're comfortable food to eat. They just make you feel happy. If you come here and you watch a football game or a NASCAR race or a golf tournament, there is nothing more fun than to get a big old thing of nachos and stick it down between you and your buddies and everybody just dive in. They've got cheese, these have got beef, they've got chili. Oh, we've got cheese to pour on this.
Queso, jalapenos, tomatoes, man, you got it all. Pretty good nachos, man. It's one of my go-tos up here for a little snack. A couple cold beers and some nachos.
That makes you happy when you eat that, right?
Yeah, definitely, man.
So, guys, the last thing is, I'm going to say thanks to my buddy, because this Kenny Schrader is like a guy that I'm very interested in now. He's racing dirt now, and my buddy Big brought this book for me to look at, and I'm looking forward to reading that. And we're going to tear up some nachos. And LB is giving me hand and arm signals, which means I'm supposed to have a little bit of this.
We're really good, as always. So
Oh
there again.
my God, those are spectacular.
There again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Glad you guys, like I said, like, share, follow. Check us out on YouTube, Rubbin' and Grubbin', man. Till next week. See y'all later, man.
You talk, I'm eating.
Oh, good, good. Sounds great, man. Later.
Hey, I'm Dan Foulds.
And I'm Brandon Bain. Thank y'all for watching. Tune in every Wednesday, 5:30. Come and see you live from the center of the universe.
Coach's Corner.
Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. Rubbin' and Grubbin'. Later.